Thank you for having me back here to speak once again at the Guildhall. It's great to be back. Now, regular attendees over the last few years will be familiar with me coming up here to talk about the next stage of the FCA's innovation journey. And you'll be unsurprised to know that maybe I'm going to say a little bit about that today. Our journey began back in 2014 when Innovate was a project staffed by just 2 people. 5 years on, and we have a fully formed division concentrating on innovation inside the FCA. And today, we're announcing the next phase of the first cross-border tests spanning 12 jurisdictions that the new Global Financial Innovation Network will conduct. So we've gone from 2 people 5 years ago to a global coalition of regulators who see innovation as a core part of their day job. Now, that's all very, very exciting, and lots of words and lots of things will be said about this. But at the FCA, we've also taken perhaps the uncomfortable step of taking a step back and asking ourselves, is this actually working? We all agree that innovation, in theory, is in the interests of consumers and that it's a good thing. The subject attracts great attention and many column inches. But are we actually achieving it? Can we say confidently that we're matching deeds with our words? And when we launched FCA Innovate, we believed that we had an approach that could create the conditions for those things to happen. We asked ourselves, can we encourage innovation in the interests of consumers? Can we help innovative firms operate in a regulatory context, getting their products to market faster? And when those firms get there, are they actually delivering the kinds of innovations that consumers need? Now, none of this is particularly simple. Some things are difficult to measure just by their very nature. Some effects are hard to isolate from other developments in the market. And some things we can only see over a much longer term. However, nearly 5 years on, I believe we're able to demonstrate that Innovate is having a real impact. We're publishing this today, which is an evaluation report of the work that we've done so far. Now, those kind of reports never tend to be that interesting, but I think there are some really striking things coming out of this. First of all, we're enabling innovations to get to the market quicker. If you compare those firms that have been through our innovation programs, they get to market on average about 40% quicker than comparable firms. Now, that equates in the real world to shaving nearly 3 months off the time it takes to get to market. Nearly 700 firms have received some kind of assistance from us. Of the 47 firms that have already completed the sandbox testing, around 80% are operating in the market with all the necessary authorisations. And there are a further 63 firms in the pipeline. Again, you compare those kind of statistics to what happens to firms on average, they are far higher. Of the 44 startups that tested in the first 3 sandbox cohorts, almost half have either secured additional funding where they required that, or they've been acquired by other players in the financial services market. And as we said from the start, we want to see this delivering innovation at scale. And we're seeing an increasing number of major firms using our Innovate services, quite often to launch mass market robo-advice. We've seen significant numbers of partnerships between incumbents and fintech firms. And we've seen the entry of smaller firms causing larger firms to begin to innovate themselves, particularly in the insurance market. Collectively, compared to 5 years ago, millions of consumers in the UK have a range of more efficient, better value, or more convenient services available to them. And since its launch, Innovate has received nearly 1,500 requests for support. That's about 1 a day. So the demand from industry has been there. It is clearly pretty big. And our 5th sandbox cohort that we're announcing today is our largest to date. The other question that we asked ourselves was, can we see the model of innovation operating on a global scale? Now, it seemed an obvious question to ask given the intrinsically international nature of the UK's financial markets and the international nature of many fintech firms. And from the early days of the sandbox, it was clear that firms were keen to grow at pace and scale, not just in the UK, but to get that growth internationally as well. At the last Innovate Finance Global Summit, I was here in the Guildhall and I floated the idea of a global sandbox. I'm pleased to say at the start of this year, working with a group of global partners, we were able to launch the Global Financial Innovation Network, GFIN. That's an international network of regulators, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, working together to share knowledge, provide an environment in which we can test cross-border solutions. From 12 founding members, GFIN grew rapidly to a network of 29 organisations, and today we're adding another 6, with the addition of colleagues from markets like Brazil, taking the total to 35. And perhaps more importantly, I'm delighted to say that today we're announcing the first 8 firms being considered for cross-border testing through the GFIN network. Of these, half are testing with the FCA alongside other jurisdictions, and those firms are Onfido, Tradall, Ascent RegTech and Starling Trust. These are propositions that are not just tinkering around the edges of the status quo, but have the potential to fundamentally change how things are done. These are propositions that are taking on known cross-border issues, like trade or consumer access, and they offer real possibilities around the gains for society. Now, these are not issues that we believe can be solved in one location or one market at a time. These are truly global challenges, and truly global challenges require a global response. GFIN, in its own way, from a regulatory perspective, allows us to test whether that is possible. We're also at a point, and I know a number of speakers have already referred to this, where things that perhaps once seemed niche have now become mass market. Serious, sophisticated technologies operating in the financial system for real public gain. Now, by harnessing new technologies and turning them to public good, we're able to do things that weren't possible before. And I believe all the things I've just mentioned illustrate the power of innovation. I just wanted to briefly mention 2 more. First, we can bring together the challenges of the environment and the innovation that financial services can provide. Today, we're also announcing the firms who will run tests as part of our first special Green FinTech Challenge. Secondly, as regulator, we're also investing some of the time and effort and energy that we've talked about in how we use technology in-house. The Governor mentioned earlier on the joint project that we have with the Bank of England looking at regulatory reporting. I want to just offer one other example, which is around financial crime. Financial crime is staggeringly costly to financial services and to society at large. But new technologies offer the potential to tackle this threat and seriously curtail the ability of criminals to take advantage of the financial system. Last year, we held what we call our first tech sprint on financial crime, which brought together 260 participants from 16 countries to explore how innovative solutions might be brought to bear on this problem. The tech sprint demonstrated something I think we knew well, which is all too often vital data and knowledge can be held in individual silos, so that something that is, again, a global problem is being tackled on an individual basis. In July, we're going to be holding a follow-up session to explore how technology can be employed to break down these international barriers. And this will be a truly global effort, with international colleagues from the US, Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific working together. Our aim is to prompt solutions that can viably be tested either in our own sandbox or to go on to be tested via GFIN. So just to conclude, we can be sure that the progress that we've made is significant and real, but there is much, much more to do. If you read our evaluation report, and just as a short advert, its copies are available out in the hub, you will find in there that we don't think that everything is perfect. Many of the challenges that we face are of a global nature. They range from the environment to trade to crime. And these challenges are going to take creativity and vision to overcome. But it also means, from a regulatory perspective, we continue to see opportunities. And so to conclude, our journey very much continues. Thank you very much.